Welcome to our series of short videos all about the academic staff at GGE. My name is Lucy Clark, a first year BSc Geography student. I'm keen to get to know staff in our school and find out not only what kind of research and teaching they do, but what inspired them and inspires them about their field. Today I'm talking to Juan Berrio, who is a lecturer in physical geography. Hi Juan. I've done some research. And I gathered that you describe yourself as an ecologist and specifically a biogeographer. Could you explain what a biogeographer is and also what inspired you to shape your career around this topic?
Yes, biogeography mainly entails studying and investigating about the distribution of different species in time and space. And one of the reasons why I decided to study biogeography is because I really like getting an understanding why species are distributed in one particular location, why they do not occur in a different place. And that's something very interesting to see how these changes in species diversity take place at different locations and at different time scales.
Yeah, I guess as climate change happens, I suppose that different species will sort of exist in different places. So I guess it's always interesting because it's always changing, sort of thing, and you can look back on the past and see how it's changed over time.
Exactly. Climate change is one of the main key issues that is what we are experiencing today, climate change, but definitely climate change has been always with us before the human appears in the landscape, let's say, and in creating a serious impact on the species distribution. But climate change has been always an issue.
Yeah, it's not just a new thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started as a student in the country where you're from, which is Colombia, and then you travelled to the University of Amsterdam for your PhD. Could you just tell me a little bit about your PhD project and what led you to working on that particular thing?
Yes, when I decided going to Amsterdam for my PhD studies, I did study I actually used fossil pollen to reconstruct vegetation changes and how the vegetation responds to climate change. So by using fossil pollen, actually, you can actually track back all these environmental changes and see how different species occur at different biomes. So that was a very interesting experience, just having the opportunity to work in Colombia, in different areas, like in the Colombian savannas. I worked a lot as part of my research. Also, I did study a large part of the Colombian Amazon, so that's one of the reasons why I liked taking the students to my country, just to show them what is it like to be and conduct research in the tropical rainforest biome.
Okay, well, yeah, that does sound very interesting. So what do you want to learn from your research? Why is it that you want to research it? What are you trying to find out?
Yes, that's a very interesting question, actually. We always try to know more about a particular region that you are investigating. I mean, I always have been studying the biogeography, the ecologies, the climate change, and the past reconstructions of the vegetation using this particular tool as fossil pollen is. And but that's not the end of the game. You know, and get a paper published, and you want to conduct more about it, more research, conducting more investigations, and then trying to gain more knowledge, because one place, one site that you investigate is not telling us the whole holistic story of environmental change that took place during the past. So we need to investigate more.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot about fossil pollen. So I just want to know, how common is it? Where would you find it? Can you find it anywhere, or is there particular locations? Like you mentioned Colombia. So can you find it anywhere?
Well, fossil pollen is a very interesting entity to be studied. All plants, as you may know, all plants produce different pollen types, different species, produces particular shapes that we can actually investigate from the lake sediments or by different ponds, and even from different pit bogs. So they store well in this kind of environment. So if you want to retrieve some of these pollen grains, you actually need to go to the lakes where there are some moisture environment, allowing the pollen to be nicely preserved. So those are the best places. You can also find them in soils, but soils sometimes do not preserve well the different pollen grains.
Yeah. Okay. And when you find a sample from wherever you find it, like how do you actually analyze it?
Well, the process is somehow tedious in a way, but it's very interesting because it represents different challenges. For instance, when we go to the field, of course, you need to try to find the best location to retrieve your sediments. And it's not that easy as, okay, let's go there, just take your equipment, take out all the sediments. Now, usually of course, you get really muddy. And of course, things sometimes don't go well. The coding equipment gets stuck in the sediments. You may need to find another suitable places. But it's part of the business. I mean, it's really enjoyable conducting this kind of research in the field. And there is another element when you take the sediments back into the lab. And of course, there is another process. You need to extract the fossil pollen, analyzing the sediments in the laboratory. And of course, you are applying particularly specific techniques. And then it comes later on the analytical process, all the challenges of understanding the data sets and then getting a meaningful interpretation of your data. That's very interesting as well.
Yeah. So you say like meaningful interpretation. What can be interpreted from like the results of sort of like working on this sample, analysing it?
Yes, we need to get a clear understanding about where the samples are coming from, what are the typical vegetation that exists today, and try to reconstruct the vegetation of the past. So those are kind of the challenges. Identifying whether there was or not a human impact driving the change of the vegetation or not. So understanding the possible drivers and mechanisms of vegetation change, and maybe it was climate as well. So those things, those elements, we need then to put them in perspective in order to conduct this thorough reconstruction of past vegetation.
Yeah. And you've been working at Leicester since 2005, I think, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want you to tell me a bit about like what you do here, and I assume that a lot of your teaching focuses around biogeography and ecology because that's your specialism. So would you say that your own research has impacted what and how you teach?
Yeah, definitely. I like to take all the lessons learned from my research because it's a way of transferring the knowledge, passing this knowledge onto the students, show them the last stage of the research in that particular field. And of course, I touch upon different topics. Like you said, I study biogeography. I also study the ecologies of different plants, how they do distribute in the landscape, but also understanding the changes over time as a response either to climate change or human intervention. So I can actually put those elements in different classes and then teach them in different modules to our students. So it gives a very nice opportunity to translate this knowledge and pass it on to the new generations as well.
Yeah, that's good. And obviously you go out into the field to do your own research, but it's important for us as students to also do some research and go out into the field. And I know that you run a field trip to the Amazon because you said you take your students to Colombia where you're from. And I bet that's amazing. So what sort of things do students get up to on the trip?
Yes, I think it is one of the best and greatest opportunities for the students just to have the chance going to the Neotropics, going to South America, visiting a new culture, understanding why people live in particular regions, and also understanding why the extent of the different ecosystems. So it's a great opportunity for the student not only just to visit the tropical rainforest for the sake of, this is the tropical rainforest. Look at these majestic, magnificent trees, tall trees. It's just actually to understand as well the richness of the biodiversity, why biodiversity occurs in the tropics. So we do a lot of exercises to try to understand and answer those kind of questions. Why biodiversity is so important in the tropics, and of course we try to link elements with the human impacts, and of course discussing the issues of the local communities impacting and influencing the distribution of the tropical rainforest vegetation.
So you get up to a lot then. It's a lot of different sorts of things.
Yes, we see a lot of different. We try to visit the savanna ecosystem, the rainforest, the different forest types, the different floodplains. I mean, this is a quite interesting module in terms of what you see within 2 weeks' time, because we go for 2 weeks, and then we try to visit all different ecosystems that we can find available within one small area where we are traveling constantly around.
Yeah. Okay. So before we wrap this up then, I just want to know what the future holds for you. What sort of things are you working on now, plan to work on in the future? Like where's your research going next?
Yes, I'm kind of now embarking in this kind of a research that links the human impacts and trying to see where the future of our ecosystems are going to. And of course, we discussed today some of the elements and issues of climate change, but we need to put the human dimension as part of the equation. So the integration of these two elements in our research is an essential element for the future and the progress of the future of our research.
Yeah, because well, that basically is just summing up geography, isn't it? It's about human,
Yes.
like physical geography coming together and how humans impact the environment and stuff like that. So yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you for your time, Juan Carlos, and thank you to everyone who's watched this episode. Be sure to check out the other episodes to learn about our other academic staff in the School of Geography, Geology and the Environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.